streaming from the Edinburgh South Cafe, the Yes Cafe, beaming out to the World Wide Web on the internet from what's this? Something Dams. What was that? Liberton Dams. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Liberton Dams.
Amazing.
Isn't that incredible? From the Yes Cafe. There's the lady from the Yes Cafe. What's her name?
Gillian.
There's Gillian. Look, she's got the Yes sweater. They've got out the front. You can get your badges. And so this cafe's just opened recently, and they're serving breakfast buns and tea, and they're here to come together in solidarity for a free and independent Scotland.
Yay!
I was speaking to the lady in the university. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I was speaking to somebody. I was speaking to somebody on the telephone before I came up here, and we were speaking about Scotland. We got into a conversation on the phone, and she was saying it was so exciting. She said you couldn't believe it. She said people were walking away. That you could feel the energy, people's hearts were pumping, they were going, this is it, this is it, we're going for it. And she said to me, what kind of country would vote against their own independence? And I said, why?
Scotland.
She said to me, should we Google it? Should we look up and find out whether any other country has ever voted against their own independence? And then, like, I put this up on the Twitter, and someone said, Scotland is not a country. Oh. I said, well, Scotland, England's a country. Scotland is in Great Britain, is in Europe, is in the world. Scotland is a country, and it was the one opportunity. It was the one chance. There's no children in there. Yeah, one fucking chance! One chance! Oh, sorry about that.
You must.
Sorry about that. You had one chance. You had one chance. You know, and you know what? You know what? I'm telling you right now, in Scotland, nothing would have changed. Absolutely nothing at all. It would have done in Westminster, everything would have changed for them. They would have got the biggest bloody nose they ever had in their life. You know, but your schools would have stayed the same, your hospitals, you would have stayed the same. But they wanted to, just leading up to it, they wanted to scare you, and that's how they won. They used the entire media, they used every trick in the book. It was blanket coverage. You had the Royal Bank of Scotland saying, we will leave, we will leave, we will move, we'll just move our office, and the headline, we will leave, and underneath, well, we don't actually, you know, but they wanted to scare you. Deutsche Bank, it'll be Armageddon, Arma-bloody-geddon. These are people, the Royal Bank of Scotland, you might think this is some people are saying it's a coincidence. Other people are a little bit suspicious about the Royal Bank of Scotland's financial figures. The Royal Bank of Scotland was given £46 billion of public funds in the bailout. And since 2008, miraculously and coincidentally, their losses are £46 billion. Some say that's a coincidence. You know, what you have, you have in control of Westminster, the banking, financial, this is why they was coming out. They're the ones that were scared. The people, the politicians and the Westminster, the ones that they work for. We was watching the other night the super rich, and they were saying the bailout, it was a bailout boom. They don't even know what to do with the money. That the 95% of the quantitative easing went straight to the super rich. It's like, you have, like in Edinburgh, someone sent me a message this morning. Edinburgh is one of the richest places in the middle of Edinburgh. Is one of the, and he said on the outskirts it's so poor. And he commented on me having breakfast in this incredible breakfast where you can have everything. It's not like at home, everything is there. There's so many juices, so many everything. And he said to me, like, have a look at the beige people around you. You know, have a look around you. You know, the way that the super rich, the way that the people that own everything, that was the key to the independence vote, because they wasn't, the newspapers, the people in the media, they wasn't for the people. They was backing the corporations. They hated the people. They hated them so much that they terrorised the elderly in Scotland. They said, you will lose every fucking penny you got. You will lose everything. You know, in the same time, when I was in the college yesterday, a girl's made a zine called something, Reclaiming the Land for Scotland, because there's that report, the 452, the landowners in Scotland, where they own all these large estates where they shoot grouse and they burn all the thing, and they don't pay no tax. They're registered offshore. They buy them for multi-million pounds, and they own all the land in Scotland, and they get subsidies. They're paid like £14,000, £26,000 a week from public funds. That's what the Scottish independence was about. You know, because in Piketty's book Capital, when he talks, it's not always about money. It's about assets. It's about what you own. It's about resources. They're real things. Money isn't real. You know, real things like land. And that's what it was about. You know, they didn't want to give up the land. They didn't want to give up Scotland. David Cameron, he would have lost the Queen. She was having it. She was losing it completely. You know, you can imagine, even in that thing when he declared, she was purring. you know, the whole independence thing was grassroots. It's people, and they in young street language, they dissed you. You know, the people, what they didn't call the people that wanted independence, you know, about nationalism and the way that they tried to drive home that you know, the vote for independence, that was like a massive group of people that wanted it. But you had there was grassroots groups. No, but you was up against the big boys, and that's what the super rich. Someone tweeted the other night about when they was watching the super rich. They said, like, watching this program now, it's called the Super Rich and Us. Watching this, I just understand. Working class people don't stand a chance. Don't stand a chance. And it's because of greed, and it's because of how it's driven forward. You know, it's because of the culture, or the way that they drive that down your throat. But it's the way that society is constructed. And my premise for coming here today, that I said to the lady what we're talking about, or what kind of society allows rich people to gamble every single day on whether the poor eat or starve. Because what's actually happening is not just in fractional reserve banking, where what that means is they only have a little bit of money in it and it's all debt. What they're doing, you can even imagine if you was in a little town and you was growing lots of potatoes and you had a bumper crop, and this guy over here didn't have so many carrots, that when they come, you know, the potatoes, I've got too many, you know, and I need to sell them, otherwise they're going to go bad, so let's knock them out cheap, and the carrots ain't got so much. You can understand how feasibly a country could do that with their resources. But with this free market, deregulation of the banks, they brought in this massive, what the super rich were talking, this derivatives market. So basically people go to the stock exchange and they gamble. So it's not to do about how they're gambling money It's like casino banking. They gamble every day on whether there's going to be a war, whether on whether there's going to be like people aren't going to have enough food. Whether they're gambling on the price of it, so they have a thing. They can bring that price down. They said that they, on the other night, even though Adam Parsons said to me it's a notional value, that the amount of money that they're gambling is 1 quadrillion, which is 10 times the amount of all the resources on the thing. That's a notional value. I said to him, debt is a notional value. You know, the way that the world works is we don't have any money. We never have money. You know, reasons why we don't have money is the banks don't want you to have it. So basically what they want you to have is not money, they want you to have debt. So how they do that, the first trick is you don't get paid the day you work. You don't get paid the end of the week. You don't get paid at the end of the month. When you start a job, you work the first month, you get paid at the end of the second month. You know, most people can't live like that. You know, by the end of the month, you need your money, you know, by the end of the week. They've already got you in debt. They've already drawn you in before you've even started work. You know, they don't pay you for 2 months. Your money, for most people, comes every 2 months. They're pushing down on the super rich and us. Under the cloak of austerity, the primary purpose of this government moved public money into private pockets. So they've been moving lots of public services into private hands. So this morning the Deputy Mayor of London wants to privatise lots of the Metropolitan Police, outsource it. But they want to privatise things, but they want the jobs. This is the pushing down on people's profits, on people's money. Cameron's come out today and he said, I want all the businesses, because of the drop in oil, you should be giving everyone money. You know, that's how they make money, is on people's wages. That's why we have low wages. He's out there shouting about that. Give the fucking nurses their money, mate. You don't go around telling people, give the nurses their money. You know, they haven't had a pay rise in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right, think about this, 60% of the NHS money is on wages. How many billions upon billions? If you think every year they've saved that amount, where's that money going that they've saved? I asked Dr. Louise Irvine, she said it's going out on tender processes, it's going out in privatised, it's going out all over the place. Nothing's changing. He's saying I haven't increased, I haven't cut the NHS spending. NHS is used to 4 to 7% increase every year since it's been formed. Where's that money gone? No, that's like a 24% cut in real terms. You know, the way that they've done it is they've introduced union laws. They've taken away they're changing working practices. When you get MPs sitting on programs like Question Time, same thing. Yeah, some people like working 16. You know, it suits some people to do 4-hour shifts. That's shit. It doesn't suit anybody. When I was teaching down in a college in London, I was doing like 2 days a month, 3 days a month. Like they're cutting back on teaching hours. Go into fucking admin and tell them to come in 2 or 3 days a week. They're not going to do that. They go and they're changing working practice all over. In Sainsbury's, for instance, you work 4-hour shifts. So what is this about the 4-hour shifts? What is going on with this working practice? Basically, it's because if you only work 4 hours, legally and human rights, you have no rights. You turn up for work, you go and sit in a till, no tea break, no piss break, you have no rights. So suddenly, from having someone, when I was little, in the Sainsbury's used to be like a deli, you used to have a job, have a career, they would pay your pension. I don't do that no more. Only for the managers. You know, you go into work at Sainsbury's now and you get 16 hours. You know, there was a girl who was writing a thing about going into Next, went for a job in Next. I'll give you the job. You got 16 hours. She said, 16 hours, I need a bit more. Can I only work 16 hours? Well, I'll give you these shifts. She said, but can I work more? Well, if there's time, you can work more. said she turned around a couple of days later, there's somebody else there. She said, yeah, I just started today. She said, I went to the manager and I said, I'm looking for more hours. You've just given me a job. Why are you taking more people on? You know, this is what they're doing. Because what happens with that, instead of having somebody for life, for a career, you've just got this day-to-day labour that comes in and works 4 hours. You've got no responsibility for, no pension, no holiday pay, no sick pay, nothing. You imagine all of that. And the same thing has happened in the construction business. You know, where last year they brought in these umbrella companies, but it happened a long time ago with Langs and O'Rourke's, where at one time they would pay carpenters and bricklayers and take them on the books and pay them a pension, you know, pay them sick pay. But they thought, oh, fuck, we'll get an agency. So then they hire a private agency. So straight away, no sick pay, no holiday pay. You know, it's better. It's no responsibility. Lang O'Rourke, they shut down massive offices. They had to employ the admin staff to look after their workers. So now they've just got managers. See, that's how they're doing it. And these private companies that are coming in, that are taking over these business practices, they're all sitting in, because how it works, how this society is, how these rich people take over our lives, how it works is they're actually physically in the government. That's why it's not democracy. It's not a democracy. We don't live in Westminster. Is like it's a little bit different in Scotland because you're having big changes here. You've got SNP. Is the guy from SNP still here?
Neil. No, he's away.
He's away.
You're not going to do it.
But SNP are coming like they're trying to say like we're new. We're going to do all this. We're going to be like you know. Let's wait and see. Do you know what I mean? How much power, how much things can they really change? We're talking about you, Neil, and about how when SNP get the power, how much change can they actually forge? How much can they actually do? I spoke to a Labour MP this week, Chris Williamson from Derby. He's a backbench Labour MP. Really good guy. This is the most impassioned, incredible things, you know, and against food banks, against all this, the way that society is, against austerity. Yet he has a party that is, Ed Balls in his last thing said no more borrowing and is going down the austerity route. You know, we can't afford, we need to be like, to get, it's like, you what? You can't change anything. You know, you have 650 MPs. You have in Westminster, we got red and blue. That's it. You know, this side and that side, they're all the same. Everything's the same. I'm not saying anything about Neil, by the way. Do you know what I mean? SNP, you know, you have very little history about like what's going to happen now if they turn up and they go, boom, we just got 40 MPs. Because that's going to have massive repercussions in Westminster, because you're going to be taking over the role of the facilitators, the dirty, disgusting Liberal Democrats, which push through tuition fees, which push through the NHS bill, which push through the welfare reform bill. We had Nick Clegg. I don't know how to describe this. He said that he was against the bedroom tax, and he voted it in. You know, leading up to quite recently, they started to be against the bedroom tax again, and then they had another vote, and he voted again. You know, it's incredible. You know, from your election, your independence vote, they're one on myths, they're one on lies, and they're one on exaggeration. You know, when it comes down to it, I've done the last couple of general elections in 2010 and in 2006. I worked and done art projects around them and followed them really closely. And what happens, like in the lead up to it, is really different from the last couple of weeks and when it gets down to the last little bit. But ultimately, The politicians, the people that are in power, the people that are in Westminster, they have no power. They don't do anything. It's not up to them. It's not up to them. You know, Theresa May, who's doing the child sexual abuse inquiry at the moment, everyone's saying, oh, she's going to do this, she's going to... In a couple of months, she's not going to be there. The people that run the show are the Home Office. The people that run the show is Westminster. The people that... These are the same people. You know, when the vote goes to Parliament, it's not that... you know, in our politics, we've got two different... We have another house. We have the House of Lords.
Yeah.
We have a House of Lords that votes on laws. Who are these people? These are the CEOs, these are the bankers, these are the miners, these are the lobbyists, these are the pharmaceutical magnates of our country. These people in the House of Lords. Yesterday, I was saying in the university yesterday, even if you knew who these people are, you know, Lord Nash, who was involved in academies and the privatisation of schools. He goes from being a vulture capitalist into being made a lord. He's a Tory party donor. He gave £300,000 to the Tory party. He's interested in academies. They made him a lord and made him the schools minister. How in a democracy could that even happen? And how in a democracy could no one in the media even point it out or even talk about it? Lord Hill, 20 years working for Quiller Consultants. He built the firm. You know, they are the PR firm of the Conservatives, but they're also the preferred PR firm of the government. But they are also the firm that looks after banks, that looks after every nefarious arms company, that looks after countries like Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. They do PR for these people. They do PR for them. David Cameron made him a lord. He's working with some of the most nefarious, despicable corporations, lying, cheater, propagandizing, and he gets made a lord. He gets made the leader of the House of Lords 10 months after he's made a lord, which puts him into the cabinet. I was screaming about it. No one even mentions it in the media. This man goes into the cabinet. Do you know what the cabinet is? This is where your decision... He goes into the cabinet. He's a leading lobbyist. He's not even a leading lobbyist. He's a daddy lobbyist. He's just been sent to Europe to go and work in Europe now. You know, you have all these people and Lord Green, the Mexican drug cartel money launderer, who was working with HSBC in Mexico, brought to in front of a Senate commission in America, found guilty of laundering £7 billion of Mexican drug cartel money. You know, they made these boxes, especially the Mexican drug cartel. They chop everyone's head off. They made these boxes to put the money, especially so that they could fit into when they went into the bank. That's how much the bank, you know, and it was all dirty money. He took that money, or his bank, he was the head of it. By coincidence, this guy, his name's Stephen Green, he was also head of HSBC Cayman Islands. They moved the money from Mexico to Cayman Islands to Switzerland, and he was found guilty. He wasn't found guilty because they don't get, it's not about he gets fined, or HSBC got fined. So what this guy, what was his reward in the HSBC bank? You know, David Cameron made him a lord. You know, just a few months after he was in front of the Senate Commission in America, they made him a lord. After making him the lord, what job did he just didn't make him a lord. He made him the Minister for Trade and Industry. I mean, you can't even make it up who these people are that are running the country, that are involved in politics, where they come from, their background. You know, when I said that they don't really run the show, the people in the Home Office run the show, or people in the other departments, they have desks. They have people in official government departments. People like the energy sector. So these private companies that make billions from our resources and the resources of the poor people around the world who are exploited from Mozambique. You know, there's gas fields off of Mozambique, and they just sold them in Mozambique. 25 years, ravaged war. They get nothing. One of the smallest GDPs, and they sold it to Shell, and Shell freezes it and takes it out to the Asia market. You know, the City of London, the city of corruption, that's their business, is other people's resources. You know, this is how the world runs. This is how these are the people that run the country. So in the government offices, what I was saying, in the government offices, the people that have desks, they just come from a job, or they're still working for these energy companies, whether it's the gas company or the electric company. You know, that's why we don't stand a chance. That's why the working class people, you're to blame for everything. It's all your fault. You know, it's immigrants' fault. It's the disabled's fault. You know, and the media, the way that the media works, how can you have a chance when you have newspapers that you know, they talk about Charlie Hebdo and about the freedom of speech, and about how the things that they said and how we should stand up for freedom of speech. And you get newspapers like the Mail, the Express, and if you go online, it's constant. It's every single day. You know, 75% of people that are sick aren't really sick. They're all scroungers. You know, send them on the work capability test. You know, the work capability assessment thing is horrendous. It's horrendous. It's a privatized, it is so awful. It's absolutely horrific. You have a doctor. It's quite easy for your doctor to inform anyone in the government, anyone that needs to know that you're sick, that you are disabled, that you can't work. They don't care. They want to drag you off. They want to shame you. They want to take you. They want to sanction you. We've had 1 million people sanctioned. We've had disabled people sanctioned. Going to food banks. You know, it's an horrific system because they push down it, and the media loves it, and the media laps it up, and the media. Who's the media? Who is the media? Who is the Daily Express? He's the guy that just donated a load of money to Nigel Farage. You know, that's who they are. You know, it's in their interest to say that immigrants are taking all your job. They took your job. They took your job. Have you seen that South Park? Anyway, they took her. Yeah, they took her job. They took your job. They took your dad. They took your dad. They took your job. No, because no one knows what to do with that. Because how do you? Because like I came here in a taxi with a Novo, but it's you know, where I go around in London, I speak to people all the time, and you can't believe the things they say, and it's taken verbatim from the newspaper. They say exactly what they say in the newspaper. You know, they took your job. They're going to come over here. Who's coming over here? You know, the way that the language, the way is everything is to exactly what they've done in independence. You know, is to divide you, is to divide the community. You know, I do the artist taxi driver stuff, and I go around and I've been working with London Mining Network, which is a group, and there's lots of people are coming from different countries of the world because of what the City of London and the City of Corruption and the bankers are doing. And it's really like, these people are coming from places where the guy from the Philippines, Tempek and Glencore had gone in, they displaced 10,000 people, polluted the water. He'd come begging into the shareholders meeting. He stood up in the shareholders meeting, he's 20. They sent him from his village. You know, they got no shops, they got no bank, there isn't a high street there. You know, he lives on an island in the Philippines, and they've turned up, they've wrapped up they've built railway, they're extracting minerals under a license. It's been enforced by the Philippine military. There's been 67 deaths. A woman, he was telling me, this lady that got killed and her 2 children, an activist, shot dead. You know, and he's turning up, standing up in a shareholders meeting in London against a company which very few people even know, Glencore. There's Extrata, Rio Tinto, you know, BHP Billiton. BHP Billiton is the largest mining company in the world. That's why. That's what they do. They steal other people's resources, but they destroy everyone. You know, I don't understand the morality of things, and where I often say about the Nietzschean collective morality. Nietzsche had this thing about the West and about how collective morality, like we're the good people, like being in this country against, you know, it's about civilized and uncivilized, but talking about, you know, all that thing, all those people dead in Iraq, 35,000 dead, you couldn't even, 35,000 dead in the last month, you know, sectarian violence, like jihadi death cult, like absolutely horrific scenes, a country on fire. Yet, as the liberating force, as we're extracting their oil. Could you imagine going round to your mate's house and like just wrecking it, smashing it all up, and then like taking all his money, taking all his food, to tell him you're going to help, that you're trying to help him? I mean, I don't understand. I can't even make an equation. I can't even think of a simile or a metaphor. Where do you get your morality extracting the oil? I don't understand that. If you're killing if everyone's dead, if there's a massive war going on, how can you be taking out of the ground a great benefit, a massive profit to yourself? Because BP is one of the top 3 companies in the world, British Petroleum. They're in there with Sinopec, a Chinese company, but there's like 7 Texan, but it's never on the news or it's never referred to. You know, I don't see how an economist can refer to anything after watching Super Rich and Us. I can't see how an economist can make a reference about the economy, about economics ever again without referring to this program. Because what the program laid bare was everyone's getting it in the neck. You know, you've got austerity, like you've got cuts cuts in your community. You've got community centres shut down. You've got social care shut down. It's having a massive effect on the NHS, but it's having a massive effect on people. Then what was wrong with them before? No, what? Where's the money? What's changed? Nothing's changed. That's why I can't work. What changed? What changed? Why is austerity there? What has changed? Because all this quantity of easing, if you think they made like however many billion and everything goes to the bankers, that proves austerity, that's not right then. Why don't you, if you instead of giving it to the super rich who go out and buy all the cars and buy all the yachts, if you just put it into the NHS, if you just put it into the community, wouldn't that work? What would be the difference? If you gave quantity of easing to banks or you gave it to community property, what would be the difference? There'd be no difference. There's no difference at all. No, when I come over here, I flew over with a Greek doctor, but I was saying at university, you weren't at university, I'll repeat it, because the thing I made this morning is about the super rich and the idiots that lead us, the Greek Prime Minister who was cycling on his bike and he put his hand down to push the chain over and chop his finger off. You know, and he was in the hospital, and the Greek doctor I was on the flight with, he was looking after him. And he was talking to the bodyguards, and he was saying to me on the plane, he said, this is the guy that all of us are hanging in the balance with this guy. And he put his finger in a chain, it was moving. His bodyguard said to me, oh, I don't know if I can talk to us. You know, we got to, you know, looks like a walking disaster. We can't, you know, follow him everywhere. We're on tenterhooks. There's going to be another accident at any point. And then he said to me, he's a microsurgeon, and he had to stitch his Papademos' fingers with really tiny stitches. He said, I came back later on in the night and found his wife reading him a bedtime story, like close to his bed. He said, I can't believe this is the Prime Minister. And he said that he'd read, his son wrote an autobiography of himself, but he talked a lot about his dad, the Prime Minister. And he recounted a story about the Prime Minister when he was younger, when he was 12, and he was mowing the lawn, and all the grass had got clogged up, and he was still running the lawnmower, and he put his foot underneath it to clear all the grass, and just chopped all his toes off. And he said, and this is the Greek doctor said, and his dad was shouting at him, he said, you're an idiot, you're an absolute idiot. He said, what kind of future, what kind of life are you going to have? He said, he became the Prime Minister. Because you look at them seriously. The ones, I mean, it might be a little bit different in Scotland, but I know it's not, is it? You've got Jim Murphy.
Yeah.
We got Nick Clegg, Nigel Farage, Ed Miliband, David Cameron. I mean, we are led by the least amongst us, the least noble, the least visionary, the least intelligent. You know, we are led by absolute idiots. You know, when you look back in history, you look back at people like Blair or Bush, or I don't even know where to go. You know, these people that get the power. You look at some of these MPs that are in the media, they're just an absolute joke. You see them on the Question Time, you just think, how? Just how? They're pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. I mean, Jim Murphy, he's just taken on, who's that guy he just took on now, John McTernan?
Yeah, press secretary.
I had to go down, I was in the thing with, doing a debate with Brian Cox, the actor. Do you know Brian Cox?
Yeah.
It was me and Brian Cox in the Independent, and we was against John McTernan and a journalist. He's an absolute beast, John McTernan. Look, he's nuts. He was like, the advocate for the Iraq War, still thinks it's great. Still thinks it's great.
Allegedly, he's the inspiration for Malcolm Tucker in the thick of it and in the loop. Allegedly. He
said that, that Scotland, he's Scottish, you know that, don't you? He said Scotland is a mendicant nation. He said Scotland is a nation of beggars, and it's about time they wised up and started paying for things themselves. He's nuts. The guy's crazy. And they just, so this guy, right, imagine this, right, he's Scottish, he's a political advisor, and he calls the entire nation of Scotland a nation of beggars, right? What kind of idiot would employ him to go and who would take him on in Scotland? Seriously. You know, he's one of the guys that they reel out on Channel 4, you know, because as a producer, when you're in the news, you want people from extremes, don't you? They always wheel him out there, call John McTernan, do you know what I mean? And he's sort of like odious, despicable act that they need someone to like say, oh, I think it's a good idea. No, get John McTernan on. No, he lives quite close to me. He lives in Peckham. But asking him to like, can I interview you in my taxi? I said, can we just have a cup of tea? He won't be. I don't know why. He just said he won't. It's really nice to be here. Shall we do some questions or talking? Hey.
Hi, Rick. I watch your stuff a lot. I've been watching you for about 7-8 months now. So obviously you're going about London and you see a political change up in Scotland, you could feel it, and I've heard you talking about it. I'm not feeling it. Is anything at all coming from London? Is anybody getting discontented? Can you feel it around London? People are beginning to say no. This bubble's got to burst.
Well, I think, you know, in any revolution or in any argument, in any sort of like strike or when you want to, you need to have a message and you need to have an ideal. And I think Scottish independence is that. You know, you have something to hold on to. You've really got something to hold on to. You know, people are bombarded with EastEnders, with X Factor. People are bombarded with the news, with football. You know, people are bombarded with hate and fear. You know, the small groups, the E15 mums, you know, the E15 mums who stood up against a Labour council who said we're not being moved. You know, there was a guy there, right? When I went to see the E15 mums, they've retaken this estate, so we're taking it back. And there's all these private properties because they wanted them out because they were like, we don't want this kind of thing here. But what they're building is shit. You know, this affordable housing is a scam. It's 80% of the market rate. People, you get half a mortgage. You know, they don't even want people to not-for-profit housing. What kind of? How can you not have not-for-profit housing? You know, this is where are the people who sweep the streets? Where are the people who work in the supermarkets? Where are nurses? How the hell are they going to live? No, they're not even on a wage that they can afford a mortgage. Where are they going to live? No, we haven't got anything. He's so that guy who's on the Charlie Brooker thing. I've forgotten his name for a minute. Who's making
Adam Curtis.
Adam Curtis. You know, because what I do every single day, I'm on a different topic. They said they love that. They love that because you're all over. You know, that's what they want. Mayhem every fucking day of the week. You know what I mean? Outrage every day of the week, but don't stop. Jump from one thing to the other to the next. And I think until you get something, until there's some solidarity down in England, until the housing people are connected with the fire brigade, and the fire brigade are connected with workers in the NHS and teachers, and until people who disable people and unemployed people, until people all get together and become, you know, that's one of the beautiful, you know, Occupy is you know, to me, the principle of Occupy is incredible. The principle of Occupy is incredible. And what their ideology is they are so scared of it. And you can see it around the world. They are so scared of it. And it's the philosophy of tents. It's the philosophy of we won't go home. We won't go home. You know, when they was down in Parliament Square recently, we're not going home. But what's beautiful about the concept of Occupy, and I know like when they've set up camps, especially in Scotland, there was horrendous things, you know, and then beset with lots of problems. But the ideology of it is incredible. So when they set it up, it's a frame, it's a screen for everybody, anybody that wants to come and wants to say something. It's a massive speaker's corner. You know, it's where you know, Ken Loach came and spoke. The guy from the fire brigade came and spoke. You know, Vivian Westwood came and spoke. A nurse came and spoke. A doctor came and spoke. You know, it's a place for students to come and speak. You know, that's what's incredible, and that's what people need. They need a solidarity of, you know, Stop the War was fantastic. When Stop the War, I didn't go on the march. I was doing a protest myself, which was I understood in those times that a lot of people thought, this is it. This is it. There was 1 million people marching against the war under all sorts of banners. There was so many different types of banners you couldn't believe. You couldn't, every single group, every single, you know, it was amazing. And that's what it had. It had that single message, stop the war. And I think that's what until we can frame something, and I think Occupy tried to do it, Occupy Wall Street tried to do it, was around banks, do you know what I mean? Until we can frame it around, and they still try to do it, you know, around the 1%, around the people that have real control, real power in governments, you know, in the IMF, the International Mafia Federation of robbers. Until you have that. Hey, anyone more questions?
I wanted to ask, I saw the video you made with Bill Maloney outside Parliament on Wednesday, and to me it seems like the mainstream media are not covering it. It's been in a couple of good newspapers, and obviously because it's a really serious issue, but it looks like there's been really serious crimes committed and we're really close to actually catching them for it, and it's not just financial crime. And I wondered if you wanted to talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean,
what was the sort of
the conspiracy and cover-ups and things that happen within government is like, you know, which happen within authorities. I've interviewed quite a few people. I interviewed Janet Alder, whose brother Christopher was murdered in Hull with a CCTV camera. They were shouting monkey noises. They killed him dead on the floor. It was a soldier. They killed him in the police station. And they got found not guilty, and they followed Janet, they discredited her in the newspapers. They found out like Doreen Lawrence, the police was monitoring her, and then they gave back her brother's body, and then like years later they found out that it wasn't her brother, it was like a 77-year-old woman. It's just like horrific. Daniel Morgan, who was murdered with it's going on now, his brother Alistair, I interviewed, was murdered with an axe, you know, with links to the News of the World, Andy Coulson, the police, people been up in the Old Bailey, you know, 5 Home Office. You know, it's horrendous, but what's happening with what I see, I've interviewed Andy Lavery, who's Scottish, and he's up here, Scotland. I think Nicola Sturgeon's just a Royal Commission. I've interviewed Andy Kershaw, who's representing 58 survivors from Ford Park, which is a Home Office approved school, and it's horrific, the stories that like he told me, and about like how it was covered up. He fought for years to get his abuser, and his abuser now is in jail. He did it, and it was a really high-ranking policeman, you know. Ian McFadden as well, who's from Edinburgh. I've interviewed him. These people, Peter McKelvey and Liz Davis, what they're doing is there's loads of them. They're forming like a survivors community, and they're putting pressure on this inquiry that they tried to set up into the cover-up in institutional cover-ups into child sexual abuse in the Home Office, you know. But they will cover that up so people don't look bad, that their party doesn't look bad, that their institution, Westminster, doesn't look bad. And you've got people like the Liberal Democrat MP who's now dead.
Clay.
No,
it's not still thinking.
Cyril Smith.
That's it.
You know, who knew? Who knew? What, every MP or the MP, like lots of it. And do you know what? One of the, I think it was Ian McFadden. He said to me, you know, the thing is when it comes on the telly, people can't bear it. You know, people switch over. It's like people don't want to know. You know, and that's the you know, that's how they win. That's how the secrets. You know, that's why. It's very difficult for people to, you know, to engage with their struggle, because what they want is they want survivors to be heard, and the thing is they've never been heard in their life. Every time they went to the police, every time they tried to say something, you know, it was always denied them. You know, and you saw that happening in Rotherham as well. You know, when those girls were getting abused, you know, the police didn't care. You know, the media tried to hand it over to the right wing, to the racists, to turn it around and say it was because they're all Pakistani cab drivers. You know, the truth is no one cared about those girls. Do you know what I mean? Because who wants a children's care home at the bottom of their street? Who's going to look after those people that are in care? You know, we have people in care today. Children that are being trafficked today. You know, we have children being abused. Who's looking after those people? You know, you know, there's people in the NHS, there's people in the care sector that are struggling, that are trying to, it's really hard. You know, and it's really, like, it's a massive thing, and what they're trying to force the inquiry to do is get rid of all the people on the panel and get rid of all the chairs, I mean, that were involved, that live in the same street as people, that go to dinner with people that are supposed to be looking into, you know, get rid of people that they don't even know how the panel was set up, but there was particularly agreed about the terms of reference. Lots of people challenged them, saying, look, just start the inquiry. The terms of reference for the inquiry were wrong, because they set them at, like what Andy Kershaw was saying to me, they set them at 1970, and it coincidentally was the same date that Home Office approved schools changed into local council approved schools. So he was saying that's not fair, because these people are still alive. Like, all my abusers, all the people that I'm representing were abused before this time, when they was underneath the auspices of the Home Office. You know, and all these little things that they were picking, they were finding out about the inquiry, and they want to do it. They want to do it properly. But I think, to me, I think I see something amazing in that group. I see them. It's very challenging for all of them to actually express, you know, to talk about their abuse, and to, you know, it's really difficult to listen to, but it's incredibly hard to, you know, to be a voice, to speak out, you know, and you got to remind them, you got to understand there's going to be things happen and problems and all sorts of stuff. It's chaos, but they're trying to.
To me, it feels like they're trying to hold on to this, you know, just to keep it in the dark. But it's coming out, and they're still trying to cover it up. And it's like they're trying to cover up the cover up of the cover up, you know. And it's like, but it feels like it's going to break. But
Andy Lavery, he wants a royal commission, because in this inquiry, this first inquiry that they set up, they didn't have even a police force attached to it. So imagine the inquiry starts and they bring forward, someone sits in the middle of the inquiry and they sit there and they testify, and there isn't even a, you know, they say something or they accuse something, there isn't even a police force attached to it. That is ridiculous. You know, there wasn't anything to compel people to come and talk. So if they wanted, for instance, to ask an MP or ask to come and be in front of this inquiry, they didn't even have to go. What kind of inquiry is that? You know, this is what they want, but lots of people are saying, you got the information, go to the police, get them arrested. But what they want, to me, what I think they're looking for is the culpability in the people, not only the abusers, but in the people that covered it up, and the system that's been created that allows it to be covered up. You know, which is to do with, like, the Official Secrets Act, and these special sort of, like, these the Home Office and how files go missing. I mean, I'm really positive about the group that's really, you know, that's trying to force that. There's Phil Frampton, there's other people. They've done this thing, White Flowers. It was really moving. They had all these missing children, and some of them was themselves or photographs. It was very, you know, they're very inspirational people, and like. You look at talking about setting up. You know, they have a primary purpose. They have a, you know, they have a mission. They have a thing. You know, that's really. I think that's really inspirational.
I have a question from one of the viewers at home. Brian McHugh asks, "How is your movie/documentary plans going? Any news?"
Yeah. So I've started a film. It's called Westminster.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm trying not to like. Be really like shouting about it at the moment, because making a film, well, I shouldn't really say it, it was live stream. Okay, making a film called Westminster, and racking up at Westminster saying, hey, can I talk to you about corruption and things? So I'm trying to think, oh, actually I need to be a bit quiet about this. So I've been interviewing MPs and interviewing, I've got a big long list of people to interview. So my aim is to have the film ready just in time for the general election. So it is about lobbyists, it is about cover-ups, it is about corruption within Westminster, and it is about our society and about how we're, you know, what influence and what powers they have on us. But I've got some talks and debates coming up, but the bulk of it will be, you know when the Scottish independence really kicked off, you know, when everyone starts getting out, like about 6 weeks before. So I'm imagining like the 6 weeks, like April, the whole of April and the beginning of May, it's just going to be full on. But so far I've done about, I don't know, 20, 25 interviews and talked to different people, and I've got other footage. I mean, being an artist, I was up at the university yesterday, and like the questions was things like, oh, how do you survive? How do you be an artist? The guy who took me in here, he's a musician. He said he made a record 20 years ago. He wants to sing and everything. It's so hard being an artist, and it's so hard running, like, if you want to run a campaign, because you know the Green Party, for instance, they have no revenue streams. You know, they started crowdfunding for their isn't that incredible? And I think we need to look at how we can support each other, how we can help each other to realise things, you know, to make things. You know, they have millions of pounds, these people, billions. You know, the Conservatives or UKIP. No, they have so much money, so much. You know, the lobbyists. No, we need to support artists. We need to support people that are activists. You know, it's fantastic to support these groups. I was speaking with John McArdle last night from Black Triangle. You know, and talking about how you know it's really difficult to run an organisation, to give everything in your whole life. But there's these fantastic things now, and we should look towards them, and we should really get hold of things like crowdfunding and say, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up. This is what I want to do.
One of the reasons I'm a big fan is because that you take art and you I hope I'm right in saying you know, that you remind me of Brecht when he says art is not the mirror of reality, it's the tool with which to shape it. And I really feel very strongly that we kind of diminish the power of art in political campaigns. We are all performance artists, but there's a boldness that you need to actually use it. And we talked about people being beleaguered before. You're talking about the 0 hours contracts. I've been to interviews like that myself, and it is very demoralising. And so people it becomes difficult for people to interact, and we've met that before, you know, on the campaigns, on the doorsteps. And I always feel everybody has to go into the high street, everybody has to go out into the community every day for some point or another. And I wish there were more pop-up people art in the streets. We all have that potential, pop-up murals, a logo here and there. The streets are ours, but we treat them so reverently. But they're ours, and they're ours. You can wash away chalk and write something positive on a wall, something that makes people think critically, because that's the problem. Everything that happens today, the media that we're talking about, what's in the newspapers, what's not said in the newspapers, all the distractions are to take away our critical thinking. And there is why do they put people in prison in China for writing plays? It's because they're artists. And I really wish that we reconnected with the artists inside ourselves. We're all capable of prose, we're all capable of writing in chalk on a wall, we're all capable of getting together, getting an artist to do a model picture in a grid that we can all recreate on a pop-up wall somewhere. It's the one thing. We can form choirs. There's nothing that will get people thinking than to see people singing in unison. And I think that's the last thing that I would say, is that the problem we're talking about, if we're all saying different things at different times, there is nothing that has the power of many people saying the same thing at one time. The biggest thing we have is the pound in our pocket. And if we all go on a boycott of one thing, and the very last thing I'll say is I've never understood. We have unions for rail workers, we have unions for people in banking, we have unions for this and that, but we don't have a union for humanity. And I've never understood why we don't get together with a Linux geek a bunch of anonymous, etc., and get a website that would just have people who said, I am a humane being, and for one day this year I will not buy this, I will not buy Coca-Cola, or I will not buy this. People have so little time to engage in everyday politics. But if enough people said for one day a year, I'm not going to buy Coca-Cola, or I'm not going to pay my council tax, or I'm not going to do that, how quickly would we affect change? And all we have to do is something passive, something non-aggressive. It's just saying the same thing at the same time. And no one does that like artists, and yet we are all artists. That's my point.
Right, well, I'm going.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? Because that's what they want. They want to take away your critical thinking. But I'll just direct you to the cartoonists of Charlie Hebdo. You know, they drew cartoons that had such an effect that they came in with and they murdered, they killed every single cartoonist that was in there. They killed them all. The power of art, the power for change. When you talk about China, this is why they don't want Occupy. This is why they don't want squatters. This is why they don't want artists. Is kill the artist, kill the protest. You know, they do not want people radicalizing. They don't want people learning about politics. They don't want people understanding about politics. They want you to be stupid. They tell you that you're stupid. They tell you before, they say, when they introduce the economist, you might not understand this. I'll try and make it simple for you. You know, we understand exactly what you're doing. Art has its own language. Art is something really particular. You know, and it's time that art is stood up. Because art, as an artist, I know art is on its arse. You know, and we're in the middle of there is no movement, there is nothing happening within the art world. Because it's infected by banks, it's infected by mining companies, it's infected with sponsorship and ownership, from Deutsche Bank to BP to arms companies. You know, the young radical artists, you know, you never went to university and never took over the dean's office, do you know what I mean? You have to start radicalising. It's the students, it's when the students come together, when the artists come together, when the firefighters come together, that's when you'll find some real change. That's when you'll find some real leverage. That's the leverage you need, do you know what I mean? But it is about, I mean, look at this cafe, this is fantastic. This is like people coming in here on Saturday morning, people talking to each other, politicising, learning about Scotland, about independence, what it would mean, who's in charge, why are they in charge, how are they in charge, you know, who's the banks, what are they doing, why, you know, these whole things. I've done this thing called The Right to Be Lazy, and The Right to Be Lazy is around from Marx's son-in-law, this guy who wrote it while he was in prison, a little pamphlet, and it's allowing people time to think. The right to be lazy. All the rich, you know, they're lounging around all day by their pools, on their yachts, out walking around. You know, the rich, they have time to think, time to philosophize, time to write novels, time to write music, time to make art. We take that away from our artists. You know, the artists yesterday, the students yesterday, how are we going to live in the world? How, as an artist, am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to eat? How would I even think about starting a family? You know, artists need to be supported. You know, we have incredible musicians that have written stuff on the dole. Do you know what I mean? We need, artists need to be supported and need to think. They need to be allowed to realise their potential. They need to be allowed to realise, to make what they want to make. They've cut the arts funding. Labour said, well, cut the arts funding. Because they don't want to live in a better society. They don't want to educate. They want to take away your political thinking. They want to take away your, you know, they want you to consume McDonald's. They want you to consume the X Factor. They want you to consume football. You know, they want you to engage in things that In China, that when Mao, when he said, let 1,000 artists come forward, let 1,000 artists bloom. He was talking about this in the middle of the revolution. He was calling artists to come forward. And when they all came forward, he killed them all. He killed every single one of them, the poets, the writers, the thinkers. You know, the guy that they're flogging in Saudi Arabia, you know, like, they gave him 50 lashes on his back. Like a blogger, a political, like thinking about things and talking about things. 50 lashes.
He's getting 1,000.
And then they want to do more. And they said
1,000 total.
1,000 lashes. You know, the way that but they, in this country, they want to feed you this crap, do you know what I mean? They want to feed you because the owners of these big corporations, the owners of the crap, you know, and a lot of it's politicized. You have to look at the way that Hollywood, the way that things work. You know, there's a film called Three Kings with Mark Wahlberg, Ice Cube or Ice-T, and George Clooney.
Yeah.
You know, this is a parable. They're called the Three Kings. No one even recognizes it's in Iraq, but no one understands. The title is religious. It's talking about Jesus in Iraq. They're talking about, it's called the Three Kings. They're three Americans who go across the desert. They steal all the gold, but they save the Iraqis. You know, people in Wolverhampton, people in Berlin, in Hamburg, people in Washington, people around the world, billions of people have watched that film. And they think that's a reality. They see that as a truth. That is a direct representation of the Iraq War. The Three Kings. We stole all the gold, which is a metaphor for the oil, but we saved the Iraq, we liberated the Iraqis. We're the good guys. We're a little bit dodgy, that we're nicking the gold, but we're the good guys, and we're funky and that, and we're, you know, that's you know, all of these messages, all of these films. You think they don't sit down and think about that? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they look into. You know, that was brought out in the middle, I don't know when that was brought out, but it was around about the time of Abu Ghraib and things like that. It's madness. Any more questions?
Guaranteed annual citizen income.
Yeah, guaranteed annual citizen income.
Wouldn't that solve a lot of problems?
Yeah. You should see, whenever I do a YouTube and I say like something like, we should have full fucking communism right now. Full communism right now. Every single person gets paid the same. Everyone gets paid the same. You know, we have a minimum wage, why don't we have a maximum wage? How much do these people need to live on? They have so much money, you know, what can you do? Because that's what Pickett was saying, you know, they don't want money. In the end, they don't want money. And the reason why they don't want money is because it's taxable. They want things, they want resources, they want land, they want to own property, you know, they want things. You know, they have enough money. We're all the same, whether you're, you know, inherently we're the same. Prince Charles and me, you know, he would wake up next morning, I bet he didn't have the bread, well I bet he did, he has an egg. Like, he has 3 eggs. The guy, he puts them at 3:30, 4 and 4:30, and he opens each one to see which one is just right that morning, because there's some differences. You know, but he still wakes up, has his breakfast, goes out and does things, he has a bed to sleep in. You know, we're all inherently, we're doing the same things. Why do they always need more? Why do they force people to need less? You know, why are there homeless people? Why are there, you know, the E15 mums, you know, they put the E15 mums into hostels with children. You know, they took them out of their home and put them into a hostel with shared bathrooms. It's no place for kids, these hostels. You know, it's horrendous. And still funded by public funds, you know, giving landlords billions, 9, 10, 11 billion a year. You know, where you could build not-for-profit housing, You know, they don't want, they want everyone fighting. It is like the super rich, it is like Thatcherism, Darwinianism, you know, they love that. There was a guy on the super rich, and I'm sure I've confused this, or I've just thought of it in my head, but it was the other, he did say it, because I had to think, he said we shouldn't have a minimum wage. We shouldn't have a minimum wage. We need to keep the workers on their toes. What? This guy, what did he say? He said, if you have the minimum wage, they'll just sit on that company. We need to keep that, then they'll have to go out and earn more. That's what we need. And he went on to the conversation, and he's like some rich guy, and he said, you know, he's scared about, because Piketty said he doesn't know how far the super rich are going to go and how far there's going to be inequality.